To show solidarity with all the trouble in Canada, I'm wearing my plaid. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a very difficult time for us right now.
Got Mare and them back there. They brought us breakfast this morning. That was good. And we ate what we had left from yesterday's dinner. So we had a really good, amazing breakfast. Bananas. There's the boys. Gary up ahead there. And Cameron's in the truck waiting for me to switch out with him. It's absolutely amazing. Amazing experience. Thank you so much, Chair. It was absolutely beautiful. Every time I think about when we speak, I have so much more people that are so much more stories to share. And even with what we shared yesterday, there's so many other things that I want to say. But we'd probably be there for 4 hours, so try to keep it.
Hi, welcome to North of 48. It is October the 27th, and I'm joined by my friend from LaBelle Province, Davey Mammal. How are you, Dave?
I'm not too bad. How are you, Walter?
I'm pretty good. That was Charity talking, just a short clip. She may be able to join us later, a little bit later on the show.
Hope so.
Jim and Martha went and got their shots, the jab. They went and got the jab. As a result, they ain't feeling well today. So they asked not to be on here tonight. I said, yeah, okay, c'est la vie. You know, that's it. I'm sure Dave and myself can figure something out. Something. That's true too. Something. And I think that something has to be right off the bat, buddy. And is this woman here. We'll talk a little bit, not too much, but Buffy St. Marie.
Buffy St. Marie has definitely been in the news today across Canada. I think the CBC, I think I saw something last night first coming out. Fifth Estate, which is an investigative journalist group inside the CBC. That's our national broadcaster here in Canada. Said, hey, we did some research, and they're like the deep dive people into like all the different this corporation's doing this, these people are doing that, kind of like the investigative reporting people. And they said, hey, yeah, we have proof that Buffy St. Marie is not Indigenous by birth. I read the report. The initial report, their big TV thing is coming out on Saturday night, the 28th, I believe.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, no, this is it from what I've seen on social media. This is like, and I don't want to comment too much on the specifics of stuff in this case, because I've seen that this has been like a really hard time for a lot of Indigenous folks that I've seen. You know, it's like from Indigenous folks from all walks of life. I've been hearing from, like, you know, people I know around, like in the city, in the res, like abroad. Like, it's not good. People are having a hard time with this. You know, Buffy St. Marie.
Well, it's
a big figure for a lot of Canadians, for a lot of Indigenous folk, for a lot of people who are just concerned with justice in general.
Well, she's a Canadian icon.
Yes, yeah.
Who doesn't love Buffy St. Marie?
They put her on a stamp, you know, man. Like, right. My mom sang "Universal Soldier" as a bedtime song. Like, I like, and because of that, that was one of the first songs I learned on guitar. Like, you know, you know, you'd hate to feel like some of that reputation for the justice and stuff she stood up for was tarnished, but
right,
you know, with her being dishonest about her background and how she got there, which I feel like is like one of the conversations that's being had. But then, you know, a lot of other people are like, you know, she's done so much for like a lot of communities and stuff at the same time.
Music career in Greenwich Village in New York and stuff through the 60s and 70s, right?
Just for the music career, but also for the things that she's done for Indigenous causes and stuff. And for, you know, the regrowth of Indigenous culture and identity in a lot of ways.
Right. She is officially adopted into the Piapot tribe in Saskatchewan.
Yep.
Piapot Cree, and said about her relatives. Yeah, these things happen every time we see our icons. Something happens, right? Is she Indigenous? Well, she sure looks like it. If there was such a thing as a Cree look to a person, I would say yeah. But apparently she's somebody saying she's got European roots. Well, don't we all?
Yeah, I think one of the things from the report that I saw is that previously she's also claimed to be Algonquin and also previously claimed to be Micmac.
Yes.
I mean, I understand that as well. Like, you know, you don't always know where you come from, you know, and in one of those situations, if she was adopted, right? So,
but
in her 20s, says she's trying to, you know, rediscover her roots and stuff that can oftentimes be messy.
Right. And her spirit says she's Indigenous. And at one time, people could be adopted into a tribe. Now, she says we'll find out if she is who she's always thought she was, because this could be a surprise to her too, right?
It's in Canada, especially, like we have it's my understanding that we have a larger Indigenous population than in the United States, or at least one that's more visible. But their Indigenous recognition is, I think, a little bit different in Canada, in that at times, like it really can be a game changer with like getting jobs or recognition or certain awards and stuff like that. Right. I think that's kind of one of the conversations that this whole thing is trying to bring up, or at least some people want to bring up, which is, you know, like, how do Indigenous communities go about making sure that, like, they're like, if there's a limited amount of resources, that this kind of stuff is going to like actual Native people. And
right. No, that is true.
I mean, I'm also just a white guy, so right.
Yeah, sorry if my mind's elsewhere here. I'm trying to set up
Massachusetts.
Trying to set up the next clip there, but there we go. So okay, we'll switch from that to hey, I know. Let's go to Maine. How about that? I was going to set this up for Jim and Martha, but
hey, man,
here's a clip.
I'll get horny on Maine.
Antonia, first of all, what is the latest on the manhunt for the suspect?
Good morning, guys. Well, law enforcement has fanned out across New England, and we're talking about an investigation that is not only led by the Maine State Police, but is involving federal partners, FBI, ATF, as well as other local law enforcement agencies, and with assistance from states like Massachusetts and New Hampshire here. And that is, of course, because he is on the run, and there is concern that he may not even be in this county, or perhaps even in Maine at this point. And so authorities have a kind of wide lens here. We don't know the exact perimeter. And while, you just talked about the search warrants executed last night, we know that authorities are considering the possibility, he owned jet ski boats. There are multiple ways in which he could have moved. And as many people have discussed here, we know more about both his mental state and his training, his past. He was an Army reservist. He was incredibly proficient in the use of firearms, had been an instructor in some capacity. And so, we're we're not just talking about anyone on the run here. We're talking about somebody who would very much perhaps have survival skills, have knowledge of the wooded areas throughout Maine. And that is why we are still under a shelter-in-place order here. Businesses are closed. School is out another day, second day in a row. 3 people are still in critical condition behind me here. 3 of the victims passed away in the medical facility here. And so we're in this really heartbreaking and excruciating place, guys, where, the community is starting to grieve, still waiting for the confirmation of the names of some of the victims, but also unable to gather. They can't have vigils. People can't, meet up in public and, process all of this together because we are still in an active threat.
Absolutely. Such a good point. Antonia, tell us also in the aftermath, I know we're learning about the victims. Tell us about them.
Well, NBC News has independently verified 14 of the 18 people who were killed that night. But as I mentioned, 3 other people are still in critical condition, and we're learning from some of the residents who we've had conversations with. I spoke to one woman, a woman who's lived here her entire life, named Cynthia Hunter, who was here at the ER as people were brought in minutes after 7 p.m. as the shootings transpired. And she described seeing people of all ages brought in critical condition here. We know from the 14 that we have identified that they're of mixed genders, ages here. And then we also were learning a bit more about what was happening that night at the bowling alley. It was youth night. And at the bar and restaurant where the other half of the shooting took place, we know that there was a gathering of deaf cornhole players. And so this has sent shockwaves through the entire community, but it has had an outsized impact on the deaf community here in this part of Maine. And so there's immense grief there and an effort to reach out to families and friends of those who were involved in those tournaments and youth nights to see what kinds of supports they need now. And what we're seeing is people are calling their local radio stations. They're reaching out to each other in groups on Facebook right now because they can't get together in person. And so they're kind of finding ways to communally grieve and talk about their losses, or, really just connect notes about what happened that night in the best ways that they can, guys.
So, Antonia, the shelter-in-place order, which impacts towns and schools up to 50 miles away, any idea how long that's going to stay in place? Will it be until Card is caught?
That's what it's looking like right now, although, there are some hopes from the community that perhaps they'll get some information that will allow them to bring at least school back. It's been devastating for kids who have been stuck at home, living in fear, waiting to hear when they might be able to leave their homes. We've heard from people who say that they've been turning their lights out when the sun goes down at night to make sure that, if Robert Card is out there, he doesn't see their home as a target, doesn't choose to come visit them. They've been locking their barns, locking up their cars. And so, the urgency here is to try to get a little bit of life back to normal, a little bit of community presence here on the ground. But what we've heard from authorities is that so long as there is still this concern of an active threat, that they want people to shelter in place. That's the best information, the best advice they can give people right now. I don't think you can see it behind me here, but all day yesterday, there were officers here who had long guns, and they told us that they were going to have that kind of presence in front of the hospital so long as that active threat was in place, and they felt that they needed the shelter-in-place order here, guys.
Antonia, we can, though, see, and as you just referenced, that you are in front of that hospital. Do we have any more information on those?
Well,
To reach out to families and friends of those.
sorry about that. Another sequel to The Purge begins, this time in Maine. I did talk to Jim and Martha, and they're okay. They weren't affected too much by it, but the guy had skills. He had a mental break prior, and somehow he gets to keep all his guns, and he was a gun instructor. Tough. It's a tough one. But I could almost draw a parallel to Sault Ste. Marie, where they had terrific gunfire in Canada.
Yeah, there was that
Family.
and then he went off and killed didn't he kill some other people? I tried not to
Next
listen
door.
to it.
Yeah. It was just so these guys who go do it, but the purge still continues in America. I don't one thing out of this, the Republican congressman for Maine has switched and said there should be um, things to do with weapons and stuff. So instead
like
of
mental health
everybody-
checks or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's what we have in Canada, right? Like,
right. Thoughts and prayers, buddy. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
It's actually a little better than yesterday, because yesterday's report was there was 50 people injured. And I
Wow.
see they got it down to 18. So it's just a crying shame, man.
Yeah, it is. Man,
Well,
if
sure.
if there was a solution to that stuff, like there's no clear solution to this. Even if you like banned guns,
Right.
like yesterday, there'd still be millions of guns in the United States, and this stuff would happen.
Yes. It would.
There's no good answer to this stuff, like
Mhm.
except better mental health care, public health care for everybody. That's essential.
Yeah.
Just to nip that mental health issue in the bud most of the time. And you're not going to get it 100%, man. Like people will still have knives. You see this happen in like France and the UK, where they have strict gun laws and stuff all the time. People still end up going and like stabbing somebody or getting a hold of a gun
Right.
from Belgium or something like that, right?
Yeah. Belgium's famous for guns.
Hey, stuff moves. Stuff moves through there, man. It's like Montreal. It's like the Montreal of Europe, man.
That's true.
But like you still will have stuff happen if you ban all the guns. It won't be as bad, right? Because people won't be able to unload like 30 rounds just like that. But
Right.
this is still an issue as a society that we're gonna have to deal with, even if we have all the mental health care, which we should have, right?
Yes. Yes, we should. We should.
But
So-
building community, I think that's even more important, right? Having community with like your neighbors and the people around you, because then people like this get, kind of fingered right away. They're like, no, this dude's not right, right? And community can come together to help somebody, right? Where when the mental just having institutionalized mental health care doesn't.
No, you got that right.
It's a social shit. Like it's more like we can say the government needs to do more, but we need to do more because there's also a social shift that needs to happen.
Sure. Yeah.
We got to be out there looking out for our neighbors, right?
Right.
And sometimes we think voting is looking out for our neighbors. Going to the protests to demand better of our elected officials is taking care of people in our community, but sometimes actually just taking care of people in our community is the most important part of taking care of people in our community, like ourselves, like as individuals and as neighbors, that we come together and we help people out, right?
Right. No, that's true. As far as weapons go, they're a tool. At least they are up in the prairies.
I'm not anti-gun, man. This.
I know. No, I hear you. I'm not saying I am, but I'm saying that the United States could have better rules.
Absolutely.
100% on that. I just want to switch over to, and I hate the fact that I'm doing this, over to Israel. Apparently the tanks have entered the Gaza Strip.
It's about like 2-3 hours ago.
Yeah, and things are going to hell in a handbasket there.
All internet and telephone has been cut off in the Gaza Strip. It's gone dark. Man, super depressing on Twitter. Like people were like tweeting out like, hey, like help us. Like this may be the last you ever hear from us. Help us. Shit like that. Like it's
right. And the IDF or the Israel army tweeting people, but they cut the internet off. They're saying get out, but there's no internet for them to get the tweet, right?
They've dropped leaflets and stuff. They've been telling people to get up, but a lot of people can't move. Like the disabled people aren't gonna have an easy time fleeing south through rubble. Like elderly people aren't gonna have an easy time with that. Families with young children are not gonna have an easy time with that. And like, man, like just like people who are like, man, this is like my community. Who I'm like. People who are just like, no, because I have to help dig people out of the rubble. I can't go south because there are people staying and I have to help dig people out of the rubble.
Yeah.
like that's like, And
Oh,
Israel said, you know, if you stay in the north, like there's a chance that you may be considered like a terrorist. It's like, man, like it's really hard, man. I can't imagine what those people are going through right now.
Well, I hear you on that. Here's a couple of pictures. I'll scroll through here of
that's Ashkelon on top. Yeah.
Right.
That's Ashkelon. And then yeah.
Orange glow as the fire's ranged after a bombardment.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're getting schwacked there.
It's yeah.
And they've increased the attacks on Gaza. That means
this has been 20 days, and they're pretty much even.
Tell me about
with Ukrainian civilian casualties.
Yes.
Yes. Over a 2-year conflict, which is also absolutely tragic. Like,
right.
The civilian death in Ukraine is absolutely abhorrent, right? Yes. And like this is just more of the same.
Yes. And the Iranian and Hamas representatives are in Russia right now talking to Putin, and Putin's promised to the Israelis that he will use his utmost in political power to help solve the issue. So I'm just saying.
I'm sure he will. I don't know what kind of political. I mean, he in some areas of the world he might have some political clout, though, just by extension of some geopolitical forces. But in a lot of the world, man, he's engaged in a war with the United States. Like, this man does not have political clout. Maybe with Iran, but even then.
Yes. Do you like those weapons we sent you, Hamas? Oh yeah, they were good. Right.
Well, there were reports of a lot of
Ukrainian weapons.
American weapons meant for Ukraine, or even just Ukrainian weapons, like ending up in. I mean, that's how it goes.
Well, there were reports of the Russians, the equipment they captured from Ukraine, they gave to Hamas, right?
That too.
Yeah. But
you never know where some of these American weapons that they send into conflict come from anyway. Like, it could just be like same guy that's selling to the Americans to sell to Ukraine is selling to Hamas, right?
That's right. That's right. You see that stick? He used to own that stick. I made a knife out of it. And that's the way it goes.
It's what's happening in Gaza right now is very scary.
It is 100%. Imagine living there or living in the tunnels. Imagine being a hospital patient. I mean, it's just, can we get to, so Israel saying their fight's not against Palestine, but Hamas. That's their theory of the case here. However, there's a lot of people getting killed that aren't part of, that are civilians. Right?
I mean, there's what, to a certain extent, I'd say, there's what the Israeli government tells us in English when they're speaking to reporters, and then there's everything else that influential people within Israeli society, especially on the far right, and other far right politicians who are part of this government are saying, in Hebrew, right, which isn't being translated. And there are a lot of people who are translating that stuff, and you see it and it doesn't look good. I mean, this is like, it's like, like we're hearing what the Marjorie Taylor Greens of Israel are saying, right?
Ain't that the truth?
It's man.
That's it. I mean, America is going to protect Israel, of course, but they're also coming down a little bit with the hammer about saying, come on, stop the going in. Oh, please don't go in there. But I don't know for how much it works.
No.
We got to remember, Israel's got health care and America does not.
Biden's losing his cred with Ireland. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Remember when he went there and he was like the biggest plastic patty you ever seen?
My grandpappy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's lost all his street cred
Yes.
with the Irish.
All right.
He's gained street cred with like the Ulster Unionists, like all the Ulster loyalists, like all those guys. They love him. They love him now. They're like they're all pro Uncle Joe now.
Right. What are you pro Goldie Hawn though, Dave?
Am I pro Gold? Man, I'm a little young, but I've been pro Goldie Hawn since I was a young man.
Yeah, there you go. So she says an alien touched her and it felt like the finger of God.
I mean, I don't know what Kurt slipped her that night, but
Yeah. Well, she came out on a podcast. It's called Not Quite a Podcast. Oh well, she claims that she had asked aliens to visit her, and they did. And it happened in her 20s.
In her 20s, so that was
when
she's 70, so in the 70s.
Part of laughing probably at the time, and probably LSD.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what her and Kurt were dropping some acid, and can we get a quick shot of Kurt Russell's hands? Does he have like long alien-like fingers?
Well, that's a good idea.
Okay, Alexa, what did Kurt Russell's hands look like?
Oh, actually, I have my Alexa too far away, but it is answering. So anyway, she called out to aliens saying she knows we're not alone and I would like to meet you one day. And this was in the 70s. 4 months later, she was having a nap in a friend's car while working as a dancer and heard a high frequency in her ear. She claims she saw 3 triangular shaped heads, silver in color with a tiny little nose, no ears, and a slash for a mouth. The aliens were pointing at her, discussing her like she was a subject. So there's Kurt Russell. Now he kind of looks alien in the face.
Yeah.
You know, seriously, when you look at it.
I mean, have you seen Men in Black? They live among us. Right? You know, his head just like right like that, and there's like a little dude like in his head. Like, yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Well, she says she was unable to move with the aliens watching her, but they touched her and it felt like the finger of God. The most loving feeling. It was powerful. It was filled with light.
What are like those like sleep demons where you're like frozen, you can't move, but you see like what do you call that?
Oh, the angels. That's a Doctor Who thing, right? If you look at them, they won't creep up on you, but if you turn away, they creep up on you.
No, I looked up sleep paralysis demons. Have you seen this stuff?
I have not.
Sleep paralysis, like where you wake up like while you're like asleep,
No.
kind of, and like you can't move your body and you're still like kind of dreaming, but then you like always see like the most horrible and like terrifying things, and like so like demons and stuff that are like usually like sitting on your chest or something and making it feel like you can't breathe, so you just have this like waking nightmare. It's a real medical condition. I think she might have experienced like LSD induced sleep paralysis demons. That's, as a doctor, I mean, not like a traditional certified doctor, but as a doctor,
Not as a real one.
that is my analysis of the situation.
Well, okay, Dave. I think she was probably sleeping in a car because she was out all night, and she had a little I won't say paranoia, but she had a little LSD visitor in her head. How about that?
She certainly had a something, man.
However, good looking woman.
I mean, look, like
Just saying.
she has no reason to make any of this stuff up. She's
No.
rich, right? If she wasn't rich, her husband's rich. Like,
Yeah,
she
it's
like
true.
she doesn't need attention. Everyone already knows who she is. Like,
Yeah, no, I'm all for her.
you know, like it's probably real.
It probably is, you know, and I don't doubt her. Did you pay attention to the Mexican two aliens that they found, the autopsy, Mexican autopsy?
Oh, the little cakes that look like aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the same one they found in Russia or something like that 2 years prior.
they look like tasty. I wanted to like have a little nibble. They
Lick the alien.
Oh, they looked like man. I'd had a little toke when I first saw that story, and
Mhm.
like I saw those little like crispy boys. I'm like, man, I want to crunch on that. Man, that looks like a delicious Mexican treat. Maybe like a little like tamarind powder on top, like giving it a little flavor. It'd be absolutely fantastic. I don't know. I don't think they were real aliens. I think they were tasty little treats. I don't know. What do you think?
I wanted to believe, but I couldn't. I did. I wanted to believe. Especially we got a member of our community who insisted this was true, and I took him on his word.
I mean, you know what? I'm on the fence. Like I'm saying they look like tasty little treats. Give me a nibble. Give me a nibble. Give me a nibble. Give me a break of that little alien bar, and I will tell you whether it's real or fake.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I haven't heard back from Cameron or Charity. So what happens is on these walks, they get taken into these ceremonies and they've got a hard time. So I think unless you got something else to bring up, I appreciate you spending some time with us today, Davey.
Nothing other than you look really handsome.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. You dressed up young man. Look at you in your Canadian tuxedo. Right? Yes, sir. So Quebec government hasn't done anything untoward lately. They're okay.
I'm trying. Probably not. No, they're doing horrible things constantly.
Hey,
just like off the top of my head, like oh my goodness, there's so much. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I am worried about my municipality more than the Quebec government right now. But
okay. Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining us and having a conversation. It's always a delight to hear your voice. Other than that, you have fun, okay, buddy?
Hey, man, it was great talking to you.
Okay. Well, talk to you real soon.
Hopefully. Bye-bye.